All right, thanks everyone very much for being here at Writers Speak Out Words of Resilience. My name is Jonathan Pinton. I'm here to keep out trolls today, and I'm going to begin by introducing Larissa, who is your real host.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Writers Speak Out Words of Resilience, presented by members of the Writing Resilience Workshop and Dorothy Friedman August as special co-curator. Today, we express our First Amendment right of assembly and expression with an eye to resilience. The act of writing poetry or creative prose is by nature an act of resilience, a quality we need in great measure in these times. Resistance takes time and effort. We are wounded daily by Trump and his MAGA operatives. Resilience helps us carry on during the dark days. I thank you for helping us build community, a source of resilience, and look forward to hearing you today. Let's get ourselves started. A little bit of business. Please be mindful of time and keep your contributions to 3 minutes. We are blessed with many readers and we want to keep things moving. If you want to read in the open mic, please register with the link to the registration form posted in the chat. Jonathan, can you post it again? Thank you. Now I will kick off our reading with a poem entitled In Paran. I grew up wild and reckless in the land of desert nomads, in the arid lands that lie near the promised land in Egypt, that land of milk and honey they were saving for my brother, and the land of Pharaoh's bondage where my mother's kin were born. I lived my youth near Canaan and the slaving lands of Egypt. I lived my life an outcast in the desert of Paran. I grew up wild and stubborn, my hand against my father, at war with all my kinfolk, my kin at war with me. I grew up wild and skittish, like a scared colt in a sandstorm. I laughed at mules and camels that never could break free. But I learned to run in sandstorms, and how to eat my water, and how to find oases, and how to take the heat. I learned to talk to demons, to tempters, and to genies. I learned to talk to devils, to outcasts just like me. I learned to love and pity my younger brother Isaac when they took him to the slaughter, not even asking why. God bade me make the manna for Isaac and his children. My demons said they'd be here, 12 tribes of them someday. In this land of desert nomads, near the promised land in Egypt, near the land of milk and honey, in the desert of Paran. Thank you. I'm pleased now to introduce Jonathan Penton, our technical director for this reading. Jonathan is the editor-in-chief of the web journal Unlikely Stories and the technical director of the New Orleans Poetry Festival. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Larissa. And I just wanted to read Larissa's one-sentence bio real quick before we go on. Larissa has published 6 books of poetry and 2 novels, and is the original English language translator of the avant-garde opera Victory Over the Sun. And thank you so much for having us all, Larissa. This is wonderful. I'm going to read 2 short high buns. The overtly political work I've been working on lately is too long to read, so these are 2 short high buns on a form of resistance which I think is still valid. This private residence has set up a flashing red and blue light fixture to simulate the anti-crime cameras that spot the city. It's a nice enough house, what New Orleanians call a double, in a neighborhood of nice enough houses that find various ways of dealing with the burglaries that erupt from the nearby abandoned naval base. Still, I suspect the fake anti-crime camera neither fools nor deters anyone. To us, it is a disco ball. I pull you close, very carefully. Our first kiss is not hesitant, but it is ginger, punctuated by mutual question marks. Our second kiss is slow, but hard, our mouths open gradually. A dog barks nearby. Strangers by stoplight, champagne spilled on the hot street, small sins unpunished. The radio is talking about saints and spirits. I remember you sneaking through church services, sliding through religious funerals, your contempt a beacon for my own confusion and self-rage. I can still taste the way you let her escape, the 7 shining hills on which we quietly lay, my nerves and your confidence slowly spreading across the sweet rural backdrop of sharp colors and unstifled hearts. I consider the complex conflicts of muscle and nerve that allow one finger to touch another, the radical systems that allow legs to entwine. Then I rejected simplicity. Now I stay slick for nostalgia. When old ways dissolve, we seek more literal love. Small, easy touches. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm pleased to introduce Laurie Stone. Laurie Stone is the author of 6 books and writes Everything is Personal, named by LitHub one of the 7 best literary publications on Substack, lauriestone.substack.com. Please take it away, Laurie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. This is fun. I don't remember what prompted this, but here it is. No introductions. You were a woman at a bar. You were facing your girlfriend. Your legs are crossed, and you were leaning in toward each other. You're drinking a Negroni, and she's drinking a gin and tonic. You're feeling the first little elevator drop of the alcohol, and you're smiling as she reports what she's working on. She's had a breakthrough in a play she's writing, and she's explaining how a character she hadn't planned on arrived in a scene. Just as she's describing the role of the new character, a man walks around to stand in front of you. He's tall and overweight, and a sweaty anxiety with a mean and hesitant edge rises off him as he moves too close. He interrupts your conversation without asking if he can. He's lived long enough to know if he asks, you will tell him no, it's not okay. He says, what are you ladies doing talking to each other all by yourselves? It's not a question. You are caught having to deal with him. He has captured your attention. It's not easy to get him to sit back down and over there and leave you alone so you can return to your conversation. It takes a lot of words, and he looks confused. And then again, there's the anger just under the incomprehension that he's not wanted, except he understands really that time has left him stranded in a place where his desires and feelings are no longer recognized as central. This is where we are now as an entire country. The entire country is a woman at a bar wanting to talk to her girlfriend about a wonderful thing that has happened. But the country cannot do this. That guy is standing in front of it, and the way to move him away really isn't clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. I'm pleased to introduce Annie Wallace. Annie Wallace is Poet Laureate Emeritus of Jersey City, New Jersey, and author of Days of Grace and Silence, a chronicle of COVID's long haul from Kelsey Books 2024. Take it away, Anne.
Thank you so much for having me today. It feels so good to be with so many people sharing these poems. I'm going to share 3 pieces. They're short, that I wrote this month as part of Poetry Month. The first one's called The President Played Golf. The people took to the streets today while I stayed home to work for the 3rd day on my taxes. I labored over every line item, each deduction, wanting to claim my share, but nothing more. While the economy stumbled to its knees, while the people marched, while I ran the numbers, the president drove little white balls on his manicured golf course protected by a cadre of security officers, and he declared himself victorious. The next one's called Bending Toward Hope, and it's a poem that I wrote at a hospital recently as a part of the Poet is In activity, or I wrote it actually after it. Bending Toward Hope. A woman I've never met before, a stranger, but also soon a confidant, starts by telling me she has good luck. Before sharing her story of cancer and its recurrence, she needs to establish this baseline truth to remind herself And so I know to listen with an ear bent toward hope. And this last one is called After the Book Fair. A day like today is filled with the wonder of small joys, of students offering books to other students, of poets putting words onto the page and into the air, of people laughing and making plans for tomorrow. The wonder, though it is there, is not there alone. No, the awe that fuels my body today is that such love is given here, now, amid despair and chaos, amid crisis. So I know our imaginations have not been, will not be stripped bare in tandem with our freedoms, which to me means we will make our way through together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anne. Bill Yarrow. I am pleased to introduce Bill Yarrow, who is Professor Emeritus of English at Joliet Junior College and the author of 12 books of poetry. Take it away, Bill.
Thank you, Larissa. It's a pleasure to be here and to see everybody, a lot of old friends. It's really nice. I'm going to read a poem that's not overtly political, but it's about sickness and health, and we're living in unhealthy times, so perhaps it's relevant. The poem is called 3 Strokes and You're Out. On Monday, June 16th, 1783, at the age of 74, Samuel Johnson suffered a stroke. Boswell records the event by quoting from Johnson's letters to friends and doctors in the life of Johnson. 1, it has pleased God this morning to deprive me of powers of speech, and as I do not know, but that it may be further his good pleasure to deprive me soon of my senses, I request that you will, on the receipt of this note, come to me and act for me as the exigencies of my case require. 2, I have had indeed a very heavy blow, but God, who yet spares my life, I humbly hope will spare my understanding and restore my speech. 3, on Monday the 16th, I sat for my picture and walked a considerable way with little inconvenience. In the afternoon and evening, I felt myself light and easy and began to plan schemes of life. Thus I went to bed, and in a short time waked and sat up, as has been long my custom, when I felt a confusion and indistinctness in my head, which lasted, I suppose, about half a minute. I was alarmed and prayed God that however he might afflict my body, he would spare my understanding. 4, I perceived that I had suffered a paralytic stroke and that my speech was taken from me. I had no pain and so little dejection in this dreadful state that I wondered at my own apathy and considered that perhaps death itself, when it should come, would excite less horror than it seems now to attend it. 5, though God stopped my speech, he left me my hand. 6, I then wrote a card to Mr. Allen. In penning this note, I had some difficulty. My hand, I knew not how nor why, made wrong letters. 7, I have so far recovered my vocal powers as to repeat the Lord's Prayer with no very imperfect articulation. My memory, I hope, yet remains as it was, but such an attack produces solicitude for the safety of every faculty. On Monday, May 18th, 2018, at the age of 67, I had a stroke, which, though it left my speech, vision, and understanding unimpaired, temporarily deprived me of all feeling and motion on the left side of my body. Sitting at my desk, I, like Johnson, felt a confusion and indistinctness in my head. I grabbed a pen and piece of paper to jot down what I was experiencing, thinking that it might be of use to my doctor. But like Johnson, I was unable to write distinctly or even to form numerals to note the time of the attack. At that point, I tried to get up out of my chair to find my phone and call for help, but I collapsed and fell on the floor, my left leg unable to support my weight. I felt an increased tingling in my left arm, but no feeling at all in my left leg. Like Johnson, I felt no anxiety and so little dejection in this dreadful state that I wondered at my own apathy. But for me, it wasn't apathy, it was curiosity. I felt like the narrator in Poe's Descent into a Maelstrom, who also saves himself from drowning in a whirlpool by remaining calm and observing with neutral fortitude the chaos swirling literally around him. In the ambulance, I flashed back to the death of a friend 2 years earlier. She too had felt suddenly funny and bowed her head at the seminar table around which a dozen poets sat assembled. She began to moan, "Oh no, I don't want this to happen." There was terrible fear in her eyes and a terrible writhing of her body, accompanied by a frantic shaking of her head. As the paramedics placed her on a stretcher, she called urgently for her purse and her books and her papers, all of which were thrown wantonly on her legs. Alas, she didn't survive. She lapsed into a coma on the way to the hospital and died a few days later. But the doctors told me, had she survived, she wouldn't have been the same, wouldn't have been the person I knew, the person her family and closest friends knew. In an instant, that person had disappeared forever. In an instant, we die. In an instant, we survive. In an instant, all is changed, or all remains unchanged. For what do we pray? Not to die? Not to change? Sometimes. Sometimes not to survive. That is, we pray we don't survive our spouse. We pray we don't survive our kids. We pray we don't survive our friends. We even pray we don't survive our work, and sometimes we don't. The cemetery moon half lights these dead, these stones, the ponds, the paths, the half bouquets, and silent weeps one master shadow over all. The graveyard wind among the webs weaves and gusts and rushes the clouds. Crickets lift their wings, the dust raises its head. In a stroke, everything is set in motion. The rain falls with fury on the dust, falls indifferent from the moon. Wet fingers move through hollow soil. The rotting people of the earth. The velvet stench of death relents. The sounds of light begin to swell. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Is Alex Johnson here? I don't see him. Alex, are you here?
I don't see him either.
I don't see him either. Well, next up, I'm pleased to introduce Bertha Rogers, who is a poet, translator, and visual artist living in the Great Western Catskills of New York. Take it away, Bertha. Bertha, you're muted.
Bertha, I'm hitting ask to unmute. Maybe she stepped away.
There it
Okay.
goes.
There
There
she
it
goes.
goes. Sorry. This is a poem called Treed Fisher, and a fisher is a member of the mustelid family, which are members of the weasels and those kind of animals. They're about 25 pounds, and they're very fierce. They were almost extinct in New York in the 70s and 80s, but they've come back now, and they will take on anything. Treed Fisher. I hang on, we sway and pitch, leaf curving, turning in wind, nailed hands clamping branch. I, foul cloud, in and out of fear, I glare down at the beasts who barked me, treed me. Fiercest in the forest, I scrabbled up this gale roost where blackbirds pivot and swivel. Explain my place to me. I will stay, hold my own until sky shuts his seeing eye. And those rabble dogs whirl into night's doorlight. If I were back on my earth, I would incise my line in dirt. I would lunge, rip, bite, gnaw, but I am detained. Day glow grips me. Those eager ones, teeth clacking, dancing, hope my hold to loosen, hope my end to bring. Still I bide. I will down this rough hole, find my way back to wild weasel among stumps, rotting hollows, my own welcome home. And there's one more. It's called Mountain March. Again, the sap lifts within vein sheaths. I go touching tree to tree. Wind tippets my neck, flurries my cold bones. Red-winged blackbirds claim this season, scatter and glint like flung beads. Learning strength, I check taps, hoist and empty buckets, cut wood, feed fire. The maples evanesce, sweet steam becoming sugar. Hills green, day rabbles blackens. I walk 10,000 miles to hold back hate. I keep answering the dormant voice. Thank you. Thanks, Larissa, too.
And thank you, Bertha. Gabrielle Lennon, a graduate of Northwestern University, loves helping animals and showing the human being under various stigmas in her art. Find her books and tickets to her solo show on Zoom on her website, www.gabriellelennon.com. Take it away, Gabrielle.
Okay. I'm going to read two short poems. A fight between a pimp and a loud-mouthed whore on a 7th-story smack house, crack house roof, screaming heaps of vicious trash and abuse at each other as broken windows glint below them, leering in the ghetto morning sun. Pimp pushes prostitute off roof, the headline, hidden in the corner on the back page read. The sickening sound of her hitting the street, her back cracked on concrete, her blood flooding the sidewalk, the smack of her body on the ground, the most horrible sound, except while falling, her scream. Trash anyway, over coffee, readers said. Just another worthless slut addict dead. The last image she sees, flitting through her head. When she was 3, her father kissing her, then raping her for the first time. And the second poem is called Cinderella. Cinderella awoke to the prince's swollen cock against her stomach, pressing, body smothering hers, a hand holding hers above her head as he lifted her dress with the other. Prince Charming, the criminologist, warned to beware of charm. It's a verb. Why is he trying to charm? There must be a secret motive. Charm bracelets, dancing mobile of silver hearts and flowers, cold metal steel against her back, shiver, sliver, the promise of the party, the egg of the ball. All her dreams, her false suppositions. Her mother said sex should be joyful. Pretty pink drink, one she never suspected. The husky football player, fraternity king. She feels his thing because he's not a person. It's not a body part, but a police stick tearing, an object a monster owns. If he didn't have it, he'd use a green glass bottle. The neck broken. The mother hen gathers her babies to her body as the farmer approaches. Her children will be dyed and sold for Easter. Fuchsia, violet, silent chicks. Violet violence, seeping silence. Her pelvis becomes someone's wishbone. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Is Cynthia Lee Steele here? I don't see her. All right, I am very pleased to introduce Timothy Steele, who has been writing poetry, has been writing verse for 50 years, and still discovers new and surprising things about the medium every time he sets pen to paper. Take it away, Timothy.
Thank you, Larissa, and thank you for organizing this event. It's a pleasure to read with my fellow poets and look forward to better days. I'll read 2 poems. The first is an epigram, a short satirical poem. It was inspired by a recent article in the New York Times by Li Yuan. She explained that observers from China see parallels between the Trump-Musk assault on governmental expertise and the Cultural Revolution in China in the late 1960s, led by Mao Zedong and his Red Guards. The title of the epigram is Chairman You Know Who. despot of grievance, by the craven courted, a Maoist who's the baddest of the baddies. Experts, resist him, lest you be deported to his golf courses and retrained as caddies. Though I currently live in Los Angeles, I grew up in Vermont and still regularly visit family there. The second and final poem I'll read is a pastoral poem, a poem about rural life in the natural world. The poem describes an old pickup truck that I saw abandoned in a field in Vermont near the farm where my sister and brother-in-law live. The truck had been stripped of its parts, and all that was left was its hollowed out frame, which had filled with weeds and flowers. Vermont Pastoral. The pickup in the meadow is bereft of most of its components, but the space created when the hood and engine left has filled with goldenrod and Queen Anne's lace. And bees, like diligent mechanics, swarm among the flowers and make the pickup hum, as if it might, well cared for, still perform feats that it did when new and mettlesome. Its cab suggests a skull that once housed thought. Its trailer hitch recalls the things it towed, like a large-bottomed horse, behind which hot, impatient summer tourist traffic slowed. Young pickup trucks go racing on their way along the lake road, raising clouds of dust, transporting bags of mulch and bales of hay, rejoicing in their speed and wanderlust. The old truck has endured too much to mind that others still have tires and an owner, and far from looking envious, seems inclined to bask in having been an organ donor. Indifferent to neglect as summer passes, unchanging as skies darken or turn sunny, it sinks more deeply into weeds and grasses, running on nectar and producing honey. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. I'm pleased to introduce Michael T. Young, recipient of a fellowship from the New York State Council on the Arts. Michael T. Young's fourth book, Mountain Climbing a River, will be published later this year by Broadstone Media. Take it away, Michael.
Thank you, Larissa. And thank you for having me. It's really wonderful to be reading with all of you and listening to your work, and just sharing and, exercising our rights, right? I'm just going to read one poem. This one was, I'm glad to say, was published yesterday at Autumn Sky Poetry Daily. And just before I read it, the ending sort of alludes to a section in Leviticus 19:33 and 34. I wanted to read that and then read the poem. Leviticus 19:33. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself. For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. The poem is called, I've been told it's not a genocide. I've been told it's not a genocide, because those in Gaza were warned to leave before the bombs dropped, because they were given food before food was cut off, because there was medicine before the hospitals were leveled, because all they needed to do was walk to another country, because bombing the houses where their sons and daughters first walked, their grandparents lifted them into imaginary flight, where generations of family gardened, is not genocide if they were warned bombs would drop. It's not genocide, it's not killing, but removing what was in the way of our best intentions, in the way of our kindness, the way of our commitment to God, to neighbor, to love and welcome the stranger. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I'm pleased to introduce Martine Bellin, who is the author of 10 books of poetry, including An Anatomy of Curiosity, 2023 Mad Hat Press. And you can see more of Martine at www.martinebellin.com. Take it away, Martine.
Thank you, Larissa, and I'm very happy to be here this afternoon with everyone, being part of this extended community. For this reading, I wrote a series of haiku, and I used words that the Times reported were disappearing from government websites. So, and also in one of the poems, the first poem I read, the Enola Gay is mentioned, and PBS reported that that was flagged for removal because of the word gay. And I call these resistance erasures. Some of them have specific names. Enola Gay struck as resiliency symbol. No little boy bomb hit Hiroshima. No Jim Crow, Holocaust, or Gulf of Mexico. This one is called To Love All. Disabled hate speech belongs to all immigrants, accessible love. And this poem is called Good. Equitable sex with marginalized genders, clean, good energy. And I'll end with a poem that in the poem I mentioned Avalokiteshvara, who is the Bodhisattva of boundless compassion and is dedicated to liberating all beings from suffering. And the title of the poem is Candy House of Compassion. Dreamsicle Gretel arrives at the pine forest mid-sentence. 3 sized bowls served at the silent retreat, each imperfectly perfect, and 1,000-handed handsome Hansels, hazel-eyed in the heart of compassionate palms, who sits astride a lotus pad, haunting memory, nostalgia. Avalokiteshvara looks down at sound, perceives the heart's lamentations. A temple of sweets, tempers, non-binary bodhisattvas, boneless fingers fingering, streaming from the source of candied delusion, purified by heart's fire. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm pleased to introduce Donna Cartelli, whose poetry and collages have appeared in literary magazines, and she has one poetry collection, Black Mayonnaise. Take it away, Donna.
Thank you. I'm going to read from a poem in progress that I've been writing for this occasion, and I'm going to select parts from the 3 sections. Whining like a winner, or the rise and influence of Golem, the germaphobe. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Abraham Lincoln. 1. The radio goes silent, but the news is in my head. Egg prices, the new weather talk among neighbors and dog walkers, are common around the kitchen table. Whoa, goes viral. 2. Seek and you shall find an economy more complex than how many eggs we can use to make an omelet. Seek and you shall find your 401k and salaries grew. Millions of new jobs and remote work balanced our lives instead of rushing about split in 2 by work commutes. Seek and you shall find many Americans close their ears and minds to the Fed's dilemma, how to let out the air of inflation with the precision and steady hand of a surgeon cutting into a patient lying on a swiveling operating table. Abandoned, forgotten, and a God-sent seduction by Golem, who jokes and cajoles, condoles and promises to save and defend, restore the American dream, that they can once again afford eggs. He outfits them in MAGA red caps. Together they will revive America's unforgettable, regretful past. He spews retribution as victim warrior, rewrites history to erase and scapegoat the other again. reshape America in their own image. MAGA's rage and tycoon cash fuel his destruction of the American Constitution, acceptance for all and not the few, the right to freedom of speech and religion, to habeas corpus, for all and not the few, for all and not the few, e pluribus unum. Part 3. For MAGA, whom too few standing in the swamp on the hill care, rescue MAGA sinking beneath the swamp dwellers themselves, decked out in red ties, white shirts, Old Glory pinned to blue suits. Swamp dwellers who confuse their constituents' cries with deafening sounds of cha-ching, busy grabbing coins floating to the surface, released from the hand of dying MAGA beneath their bloated bodies and egos. Every white shirt is a swamp dweller. Not every swamp dweller is a white shirt. But every swamp dweller knows Golem dictates MAGA's resolve and actions with offhand remarks that could drown swamp dwellers at the ballot box, target them for death threats. One by one, traitors to the cause quit the swamp of their own accord. Swamp dweller fealty secured January 6th, once Golem's insurrection commenced, with thousands of MAGA wrapped in Old Glory, screaming like crazed sports fans, proudly waving American and Confederate flags. The parliamentary wing of MAGA, given friends and family clearance to carry, given a lock and load wink to kill the opposition, turncoats, sacrifice token white shirts, an example of his brand of legitimacy. MAGA storm the Capitol, kill and injure cops, protecting our democracy and those inside trying to steal the election. While Golem keeps his hands clean, watches all unfold on a TV screen in the people's house.
Thank you, Donna. Swapan Basu, I'm pleased to introduce him. He is chairman of Rhyme Poetry's International and has published 3 books of poetry, The Breasts, Nectars of Tagore, and Abhyakta Jahani's. Say that for me, Swapan.
Good afternoon, everybody. And Back to Chahuni is a Bengali book, so that's a different word. So let me read this People, a Sestina. People's anger burns in a fury. They have no job, shelter, or food, complaining in futile to all deaf ears, but nobody is paying any attention. They gather, march, and yell in vain. Some have children, but no health care. Government is not providing free health care. What can they do but shout in fury, protesting to the CEOs in total vain, hoping to get back jobs to buy food? Will the lawmakers pay attention? They are only shouting to deaf ears. They beat drums to the deaf ears, crippling disease without health care. Some may die, please pay attention. Excruciating pain burns in fury. Few kind friends bring some food. Still, how long will they cry in vain? Will their movement fall in vain? Could they at all open deaf ears? Will every day they get any food? Spends on wars, but not on health care. Spacecrafts burns fuels in fury. To find water, NASA pays much attention. The hungry, jobless people gets no attention. Billions of war dollars are spent in vain. In unending debt, students burn in fury. CEOs steal millions and have deaf ears. We will be penalized if not buy health care. They travel in personal jets, enjoy good food. People have no money to buy little food. Politicians want votes but pay no attention. Even if we cry in pain without health care, with no interest, money in bank, stay in vain. Complaints about high fees go to deaf ears. Paper spray burns students' eyes in theory. Revolutions were laid by people without food to prevent destruction. Now pay attention. End capitalism to improve social health care. Thank you very much. And this was published in Occupy Wall Street anthology. Thank you.
Thank you, Swapam. I'm pleased to introduce Megan Merchant. Megan Merchant, she, her, is the owner of www.shiversong.com and holds a MFA degree from UNLV. She is a visual artist and most recently the author of A Slow Indwelling, Harbor Publications, and Hortensia in Winter, winner of the New American Poetry Prize. Take it away, Megan.
Larissa, thank you. Thank you to everyone putting this event together. I am so honored to be here. I'm going to share one poem that was originally published in Poets Reading the News. Glacier Song. I read that the season demands I ready my house for the Lord, but I buy wine and hide the door. I'd rather confess my sins in a speakeasy, leave the stained glass to what birds remain so they don't head on. I read about the circle of fifths, how to hold someone through the melody, then bring them home, and what minor notes can be added as wince, as wistful, as ache. Emotion can be traced dark on a sheet of music, pinned to progression or harmonic shifts. Even glaciers have a swan song. People are holding funerals for their melt, ancients that are shedding. I mourn by cutting a caught knife from a leafless branch, but even that feels off-brand. I read the doctor's face while he looks at the grainy image of your tumor, calls it a mass. I know the crimple of discomfort, of white paper sheeted over the exam tables. You see, I've been here before and have studied the properties of a physical body. Even when entwined, it has its own gravity, comes with a shiny cutlery set. I read books in the office that seem underrated about why haircuts don't hurt and work a 2mm pencil through a cityscape, seek and find. There is a fox out of place, a polar bear stranded. Scientists are measuring toxic chemicals laced in years of ice that when fevered, release. I sign waivers, read their scheduled business hours for a loophole, for a full breath, but everything closes at 5. Months ago, I read an article about the benefits of meditation and taught our son how to trace the webbing between his fingers like a starfish, while counting to draw his anger inward on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is the note that brings us home. I read the thermometer that says fever, so I open the windows to the freeze, the cast white frost like a net we've been snared in. I read your body alongside mine, an envelope with a letter that begs stay, and I hope it's addressed in time. Each shiver song, a micro movement closing further into yourself. I dream that I catch your breath in my hands so I can show the difference between empty and disappeared. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Is Christina Lessie here? I don't see her. I'm pleased to introduce Claire Donahue Roof. She is a Pushcart-nominated poet whose chapbook entitled I Walk with Crooked Knees will be published by Dancing Girl Press this year. She has been published in Perens Fountain, Mocking Heart Review, and in the forthcoming Rising from the Ashes anthology. Take it away, Claire.
Great. Thank you, Larissa. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm so honored to be here. I'm going to read one poem. It's called I Understand. Collect these teaspoons of green that flash in early spring. Take the snowdrops and crocuses and bind them to my ribcage. I am walking through fire to listen to my soul. These are the dark days of fools running their mouths. Oh, truth be damned on their bitter lips. It is the time of monsters. I am breathing in the atmosphere of aspiring tyrants, maniacs mimicking history's worst gods and goddesses. Tornadoes, wildfires, and melting icebergs are demanding attention. Someone says to me, there is no love without grief. Yet to love is to live. How do wild things grow? Rust Belt memories thrive in the darkness. People will make their decisions. People will mark their boundaries with stones. Stones will wash clean in the spring rains. Regimes will claim its victims as collateral damage. The rose gold sun will rise in April's ending. Like a wind-up toy running on empty, I walk, breathing in a rhythm of reality that is as mist is in Appalachia. I am tiring now. I am becoming a memory of holidays. Hold my hand. I will walk you into the future. Take my red cinnamon heart. Leave my blue night skies open. I want to have you close to me in this storm. True dreams lurk just below the pink magnolia blossoms. They will only last a moment. My regrets astound the stars. Maybe heaven will come this way.
Thank you, Claire. I'm pleased to introduce Leonard Lunt, who is a Vietnam veteran and conscientious objector whose poetry has appeared internationally since 1965. Take it away, Leonard.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be with everybody today and good to see all my old friends. A poem from Poems Against Cancer, 2017. Rose of Jericho. I live with a woman who has earth in her hair. We walk the land together often, searching, seeking seeds and seedlings to take away, to take back as green bricks for the future we have promised to leave the children. I toil with a woman who has skies in her hair, long locks tangled by the breeze that sings while we blacken our hands turning the soil, as we sweat above the fire, boiling to be soup, in sunsets changing air to orange and rose. I swim with a woman who has ocean salts and fresh water in her hair, who calls fish to come and feed the ones we shelter. In the evening, she bathes with me, and the river's laughter cleans us. I live with a woman who has fire in her hair, auburn tresses burning and age smoked as she closes the long day in my arms, as we carry each other forward in dreams, as she calls me to dance with her at dawn. Our lives are elementary. Our life, an amalgam of wishes whispered sweetly in an ear, hopes balancing fears with the aid of strength that is the sum of more than parts and partings. This is what romance becomes in the apocalypse. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Leonard.